Hey everyone, it is Tabria back with an especially fresh episode of Milk Drunk. And why is it especially fresh, you may ask? Because we have on the show today none other than British supermodel, brand founder and builder, social advocate, business owner, investor, seven-figure content creator, and mom, Iskra Lawrence. Iskra has carved her own path to multi-hyphenate success as an unwavering champion for body positivity, industry change, and female success. Some of Iskra's noteworthy accolades include a brilliant TEDx talk called Ending the Pursuit of Perfection, serving as a brand ambassador for the National Eating Disorders Association and L'Oreal for the Prince's Trust, being listed on Forbes Europe's 30 Under 30 for her advocacy for diversity in media, and being named one of the world's 100 most influential women by the BBC. And that is not all. Iskra is the founder of body and hair care company Saltaire, which I love and is available at Target, just like Bobbie, and Self-Funding Planner, which makes planners, bullet journals, and other organizational tools to help folks reach their business goals. Iskra also offers brand building and social media growth mentorship through her website, iskralawrence.com. So, welcome to Milk Drunk, Iskra. I'm so excited.
Thank you. That was a mouthful.
I know.
Sorry about that.
No, it's fine. I mean,
I definitely did not submit that bio, everyone. I'm an English person, so I struggle to talk about myself.
Oh my God. No, I'm the same way. But, you know, you have accomplished so much, and I truly admire you for that. Like, I feel like you don't subscribe to, you know, societal norms of what a woman can do, what a model can do. And it's really inspiring that you've built all these businesses and you still are a model and a content creator and just find the time to just be yourself authentically online too. So I think that's really cool.
Oh, I appreciate and admire you too.
Oh my gosh, thank you. But I am so excited that we get to talk about your second pregnancy. Congratulations.
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
Thank you.
Yes. Like, how are you feeling?
So honestly, it's been a completely different pregnancy from my first one.
Really?
Way more nauseous, like vomiting. I never threw up once with my first pregnancy. I honestly didn't even know I was pregnant with my first until I was like 8 or 9 weeks.
Really?
Whereas this time we'd been trying for a long time and I've been tracking everything. And so I was like hyper aware of everything. So maybe that's why I felt everything a lot more this time. But they say, you know, every pregnancy is different. And then obviously my first was a boy and now this is a little girl. So again, the symptoms could be different because of that, but way more fatigue, which again, I've got my hands full, right? I've got a now 4-year-old toddler. He was 3 at the time when I found out, but now he's 4. And these multiple businesses. And it's definitely tough. Like I'm someone who's a bit of a night owl and I like to get working like after he's gone to bed. Sometimes that's my most creative period because then like the emails aren't coming through, text messages aren't popping up and I can like focus.
Right.
But I can't be up till 4 a.m. when you're like
definitely not
building a human inside of you.
Literally. Yeah. Oh my gosh. I can't imagine. Like, it sounds so selfish, but that's one of my biggest reservations about having another child because I'm like, I was exhausted when I was pregnant and I would just sleep all the time. I can't imagine taking care of another person and yourself. You know, it just sounds so exhausting.
Well, props to the partners, right? Like my Philip he's my rock and he is just so like proactive because, you know, some people like sit around and they kind of like have their mom as the default carer.
Right.
And I think we've built this really wonderful, like open relationship of communication where like he knows just when to step in. I don't even think I have to like verbally communicate it. He just sees the signals of like when I'm having a tough or stressed out day or when I'm extra tired and like he just takes over and it's such a relief to have that support, which I know isn't necessarily always guaranteed from partners or the village or even parents, you know? And that's so important, like trying to find your village.
I 100% agree. Like, I know you said he just steps in intuitively, but did you, especially with your first, did you guys like have a game plan when it came to co-parenting and how like tasks will be split between the two of you?
So I think we did a really good job from day one of finding out we were pregnant because it was a surprise that we were fairly new into our relationship. We did only been together about a year and a half. and we weren't living together as long distance. And my career was like booming at the time. I was like so heavily invested in that. It was a real shock. And I can't deny I was really scared. And I think we were both scared because we knew it was going to switch up our lives completely. He was a tour manager for Tory Lanez at the time. So he was on the road with Drake doing this worldwide tour. And we were just like, whoa, this is, what are we going to do?
How?
And then, and then we found out our due date was April. So we're working towards our April date. And then March comes around, March 2020. And then the whole world shuts down. And COVID happened, which kind of for our careers was a weird blessing in disguise because we literally couldn't travel for our jobs. So we ended up stuck in Austin, where he had lived for a long time but traveled a lot. But yeah, it was such a switcheroo. I'm trying to think what your question was. I'm gonna have to go back because my brain is also mush.
No.
Oh, co-parenting.
Yeah.
Did we the baby brain mush is real.
Yeah.
So yeah, co-parenting wise, I remember even from like the get-go, basically, I said, let's write letters to each other of all the things we're most scared of all the kind of places that we feel like we're going to need the most support, all the fears, that we have and anxiety and just like anything that we just are unsure about. So, because it's sometimes hard to verbalize it. And sometimes you need time, like saying, okay, let's sit down and have a conversation right now. You're not always in the same headspace. So we wrote these letters to each other and they were very vulnerable. And there were certain things that probably I wouldn't have even felt comfortable saying because they felt ugly and intrusive. And I felt guilty about even thinking these things, knowing that my best friend and many people around me have had struggles with infertility for so long. And the fact that we had this unexpected pregnancy, I felt real guilt about it already. And so we wrote these letters to ourselves and we just said, we have to be honest. We don't have to pretend everything is sunshine and rainbows and we're loving every single day of this. It doesn't mean that we're not grateful to be parents and have this child, but we just have to keep it real. And I think that we've really much kept that communication all the way through. And then also the idea of like, it's A, not going to be perfect, right? And then B, don't try and project your expectations of the other person's parenting. That was like a big one for me because I'm a Virgo and I'm a perfectionist and I like things done my way. But when it comes to parenting, if you go in with that mindset, it's only going to push the other parent away, especially if it's, a man who maybe doesn't have the immediate bond that you have because you were pregnant with the baby for 9 months.
Right.
And I did breastfeed, so I had that too. If there was ever that period of time where he felt I was nitpicking or like, not allowing him to just figure things out, like I was going to push him away. So I think that I allowed him to step in and feel like he could do anything and he was capable and he was good enough. Even if he didn't do it my way, where I've read the 50 books and all the podcasts and watched the YouTubes. And I think that was a major one. Like I gave him space to parent with me because I didn't, have this expectation of what it would look like, and B, just didn't want him to be perfect. I just wanted him to be as involved as possible. So in that respect, I think we've gotten into a flow of, he knows I'm a night owl and he's the morning bird. So he actually gets up and does a lot of the morning. And there's some days where I get up and I, help out, but there are other days where I do the lunch the night before and I sleep in. Like I'll sleep until 8 a.m. and my son's already like at the park with Philip or going to school with Philip. So I think that we've just gotten into that really good flow of understanding what works best for each other.
Yeah, I really love that. It's funny because I feel like you and we literally are opposites because you're a Virgo, I'm a Pisces, so we're sister signs. But my boyfriend Trey, he was the one that did all the research and was reading all the books trying to prepare for parenthood. And I was like, I'm not doing any of that. I'm just going to go with the flow and see what happens. Yeah. But it's, it's a lot of trial and error and just figuring stuff out, like you said, and just seeing what works and what doesn't. But it's exciting, entering a new journey, and it's a challenge, obviously, but it's been beautiful to witness. Okay. So I remember I saw you were you did like a question, like how How far along do you think I am, and have people guess? But I don't know if you've given the update on that as of now. Did you give the update
I
to
haven't,
it?
but by the
Oh,
time this
okay.
podcast comes out, we can definitely share. Yeah.
Okay. All
So
right.
I'm currently like 22 and a half, nearly 23 weeks. So my due date's
Okay.
September 18th.
Oh,
So
another Virgo.
yeah, I
Love that
know.
for
Because I'm
you.
September 11th. So she could be
Wow.
like, yeah, a Virgo. She could be a
Yeah.
Libra. I don't know. But I
Yeah.
really like that timing because I feel like my son is April 16th. So I feel like
Mm-hmm.
it's like a good time between their birthdays.
Yeah.
My friend was like, "Oh, you picked not that I picked. I was like, I definitely didn't pick this time." She goes, "You picked a great time because she's probably going to have one of the first birthdays when they go back to school.
Yeah.
So everyone's going to come." I'm like, "Okay, weird flex, but
Yeah,
okay."
right. That's so funny. Oh, I love that
Yeah.
for you. Oh my gosh.
Mm-hmm.
So you had a home birth with your first, correct?
Yes.
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 Please just tell me about that whole experience. I had one too, but I just love hearing about people's labor stories. So
Yes.
yeah.
So I always wanted a home birth because I think how far I've come with my body through my eating disorder and body dysmorphia. I love proving how capable my body is. And
Hmm.
I love that sense of feeling of accomplishment because I now value my body for all it can do. And I like find that that's my kind of like sense of self-worth sometimes.
Mm.
And I know there was maybe probably some ego around it because my mom, even though she had a hospital birth, she did it unmedicated. And my
Mm.
mom was like, I felt everything. Like it was way more like spiritual and animalistic. And like, I don't know, I think you might only do this once, or you might do this more than once, but to like understand what that like feels like, she said was really powerful. So I was A,
Hmm.
curious, B, like my mom did it, so I can do it. And so I just felt, yeah, that was for me.
Yeah.
So regardless of it being COVID, but obviously when COVID did happen, even more so, I personally was like, oh, thank God I don't have a hospital birth plan because that
Yeah.
definitely scared me more because A, I hate hospitals as is, let
Hmm.
alone like during that whole time. So the only mistake I feel like I made was not preparing as much as like I currently am in advance. So
Mm.
I was living in New York at the time when I found out I was pregnant. Like I said, long distance from Philip. We bought a house in the January, but I didn't really start having midwife appointments. I didn't even contact midwives until January. So that was
Mm.
like 3-4 months till the birth.
Yeah.
So I remember looking online and there was only like 2 midwives in the whole of Austin available. So I didn't really get to like interview a ton and get to know them and really pick who fitted best with my energy and like my birth plan.
Yeah.
I just kind of had to go with what was available. And she was solid. She was great. But I now realize that I lacked that warmth and connection and kind of like friendship and trust element. And also because of COVID, unfortunately, one of my best friends, Hannah, who's a doula, but she's based in Spain, was meant to
Mm.
come. And then she
Mm.
couldn't. So I didn't have a doula. So I think I learned that midwives really are there to catch the baby. And they're there for the baby. And I didn't really know how to look after myself during labor and birth. And I think I
Yeah.
had a lot of questions that my midwife was just very like, just sleep. I'm like, but I'm throwing up. Like, I got diarrhea coming out my other end. I'm like shaking. I'm freezing
Yeah.
cold. I'm like, well, I need someone to like help me figure out how I can feel better. And then she would just say, oh, well, you could be having these contractions for 48 hours, kind of like deal with it. And I was like, oh no, did I make a mistake? Should I go to hospital? Like this pain's unbearable. Like Philip's like, no, you're going to see this through. You know, this is what you want. And I just remember the shower was a really big relief and
Yeah.
that water was really nice. So I was so excited to get in my water. I had a water tub blow up thing. I
Yeah.
don't know. That's what you had too, right?
I did, but we ended up not using it.
Oh,
So yeah. We
okay.
just
Well,
squatted it out.
it was 10 p.m. April 15th, and I started to get the contractions. And again, everyone's contractions are different. Mine
Hmm.
felt because I thought I had a good pain threshold, but they were horrific. They were so
Yes.
painful, like right off the go. And I was like, oh, is this what it's going to be like? And I had the app and I was pressing the button. And by 1 a.m., it was saying, you need to go to hospital. Obviously, I wasn't going to
Mm.
hospital, but I thought, okay, it's time to call
Right.
the midwife. She was very much like, nope, not time. So dismissive. And I was like, okay. So I just keep on going, feeling all this pain, not knowing what's going on. You won't come. So I called her again at 4 a.m. And then that's when I was like, no, I really want you to come. even though she was still saying like, it's not time. So she came. I was only 1 centimeter. So it was a little bit of like a I told you so moment.
Oh my
But I was
goodness.
still just like, oh, wow. I felt a little bit like unsupported, I guess. So anyway, it's 4 a.m. It wasn't until 11 a.m. And this whole time I've not slept. I've only drank energy drinks. Like I'm just running off of like, when's like the next part going to happen? And again, I'd had a friend recently who'd given birth who said she didn't know when her waters broke because they trickled. Like she never even knew. So I was like, every time I kind of like had any leakage, I thought, oh, maybe that's my waters breaking. You really don't know, even if you've read all the books and watched all the things. And it was 11 a.m. and I just remember being on the toilet, rocking back and forth, and my water burst. And it was so like violent that it splashed Philip in the face. He was like right there by the toilet door, and it like splashed him. But I was so excited because I was like, yes, okay, next phase, like let's go. So I called her back, and she took about 30 minutes to get there, which wasn't too bad. But I was again like waiting. I was like ready to get in the water bath pool, and she got there and she put her finger in. She goes, "Not warm enough. We'll have to do it on the bed." And I was like, what? No, I've been looking forward to this the whole time. Like, I need the water. This is what I want. And then luckily my parents were there, and she was like, okay, well, we can try and get it warmer. So they started filling up boiling water with pots and pans and just filling up the bath, the pool. And luckily we got it to a good enough temperature. So I think I got in the pool around 12. And basically, I don't know, about 30 minutes later, she was kind of surprised that he hadn't come out yet. And she was like, you're pushing, you're strong. Like, I don't know what's going on. Do you want me to go up and check what's going on? So it turns out his head was stuck on the lip of my cervix. So she said, okay, do you want me to help pull him down, or do you want to just keep on pushing? But I don't know how many more hours that could be.
Yeah.
So obviously you're going to say, let's get him out, like pull him down.
Yeah.
But it's interesting now, like speaking to my new birth team, they probably would have advised to like just wait, because essentially he just wasn't in the right position yet. And we could have tried different like body positions, different movements to just try and move him around. Anyway, I was like, go on, do whatever you need to do. And because the pain's all so bad that her putting her whole arm up there makes no difference.
Right.
Like you're in so much pain anyway. Right. So she pulls him down, but then I start pushing again. He starts crowning, but then his head comes out and his shoulders are stuck. Because again, we've probably like rushed it a little bit, and he just wasn't in the right position. So now his shoulders are stuck. And I just remember her going, get out the tub. And I was like, oh. So because I guess I'd stood up to show her what was going on, he breathed air, so he couldn't go back underwater, or else he would have drowned. So I quickly step out the tub, and then basically she has to pull him out, and then it feels like he's not breathing, and my parents are crying. This all is in a matter of seconds. And she gets the resuscitation equipment out, but she doesn't need it. She just does mouth to mouth, and then he starts breathing, and he made a little sound, and it was all fine. But it was so interesting because I couldn't tell if that was a traumatic birth or not. And so I've had to do a lot of research after, and again, have a new birth team now who's like, actually, there's some babies who don't make a noise for 3 minutes when they're born. It's almost like their body has come out, but their soul hasn't yet. And you just have to help them with their breathing and just like stay calm, like do skin on skin. And then some of them are quiet for a long time. So I was like, okay, that's reassuring. And then same thing, like a lot of babies do get stuck. That's also okay. That wasn't a super traumatic birth. But I just feel like because the communication wasn't great with that midwife, I didn't necessarily like feel support from her, or maybe, I don't know, if the trust wasn't, if something was not there. That's why I've then felt like, oh, did that not go well? I really don't know. And I'm like, how do I have a I don't know feeling after I've just been through all of that? So the work I'm doing for this birth is like way more preparation, and just like obviously I have a doula now that's based here, that's 10 minutes away. I meet up with her all the time. Her little girl is friends with my son. She's going to really be there for me. And she's like, I'll come around as soon as those contractions start. I will be there feeding you, making sure you're warm enough, cool enough, like giving you massages, telling Philip what he can do or if he can go for a nap. And so I'm just like already feeling like less anxious and being like, I know I'm going to be really supported this time. So my biggest advice would be give more time and preparation to finding A, the right birth team, and then B, just like learning more about it and asking them all the questions, you know?
Definitely. I'm so sorry that was your experience, because I knew I wanted to have a home birth initially too. And we had concurrent care. So we saw our OBs and we saw our midwives like at the same pace from the get-go.
Okay.
I only interviewed 3 midwives, and the birthing rhythm is the one that I went with, the team that I went with. And I really liked them because I am a very no nonsense type of person. I always want you to just give it to me straight. And that's how this midwife was, who owned the practice. But her partner was the one who was super compassionate and just like very mindful of how you're feeling and your emotions. And not to say that the other one wasn't. She was, but she's also going to tell you like all the risks, you know, potential complications and anything like that. But it's very much, you know, all midwives, they're going to be qualified, right? They have to be qualified to do the job, but it's a very much an energy type of thing. You know, you have to vibe with them, you know, and I hate that you didn't have that with your first, but
and it was COVID too, which like Philip said, like she's wearing a mask and like things are different and she's got kids of her own. So she probably wasn't like also feeling super comfortable. Like it was a very different time. But also I asked my current midwife team, I was like, hey, could I have gotten in the bath earlier? Because my plan this time is actually to give birth in the bathtub rather than a birthing pool. So we can A, regulate the temperature, B, obviously if there's any, you know, poop, pee, blood,
easy
just
cleanup.
keep refreshing the bathtub. And they were like, oh, you can get in that bathtub as soon as the contractions start. You can stay there the whole time. They just said some midwives like don't necessarily love it because it can sometimes slow down the birthing process.
That's why I didn't get in there.
Really?
Yeah, because it was just, I was pushing for like 2.5 hours. So they're like, let's not get in the tub because it might just slow things down. So yeah, totally.
And how did you end up, like, what was the position that you felt most comfortable with?
Well, it wasn't about comfort at that point. It was just however she's going to get out, whatever works. But they actually brought a third midwife with them who I wasn't, I hadn't been seeing. And I don't want to say I was uncomfortable with that, but I was like, okay, you know, I'm a little unprepared because it was a very, you know, intimate process,
super intimate,
but they brought her because, you know, they needed the support because, you know, I'm a big girl and they didn't know like how involved Trey was going to be. You never know how the dad's going to react in certain situations. So they wanted to make sure they had enough, you know, manpower to do whatever they needed to do. And she was actually the one who suggested that I use the birthing stool, and it's basically just squatting the whole time. So that was finally how she was able to come out. Yeah, it was because I was just literally sitting on the toilet pushing for 2.5 hours and nothing was happening. Yeah, but
was there any point where you were like, we might have to go to a hospital?
Oh, girl, when the contractions started, I thought I was like, I don't know how much longer I can handle this. Because my labor in total was 15 hours and 8 hours of like intense pain or intense sensations rather. But you know, you hear that after and you're like, okay, I can tough it out for that amount of time. But in the moment, you're like, you know, you hear of people being in labor for 48 hours. And I'm like, I can't do it that long, you know? And so, but my contractions, they were so intense and happening so quickly. And they finally came when I felt like I had to push because, you know, you just get that feeling. And I was like, I really don't know how much longer I can handle this. And then she did my cervical check and she was like, I'm feeling her head. You're 10 centimeters dilated. We don't even have time to go to the hospital. Like, you can do this. And so then it just happened after that. But yeah, it was so crazy.
And it's more fresh in your mind, right? Like, this is the other thing.
I
think my parents were like, "Are you sure you want to do a home birth
Oh,
again?"
yeah.
They were
Yeah.
like, because we were there, we heard the screams, like we were there. And I was like,
Right.
I know, but it's one of those things like you do it, and then the feeling of being at home, like as soon as he was out and I held him to my chest and we walked to the bed, and then
Mhm.
I don't know about you, but birthing the placenta felt amazing. And
Yeah.
then I just was at home and I loved it. So I
Yeah.
was just like, I know it's going to be, the most painful experience on earth again. But
Yeah.
I do know that just being at home and not dealing with the next day or two with hospital stuff, I don't know.
Totally.
I know that I know the end goal. I know what's going to happen. I'm
Yeah.
hoping that I will just, because I think that's what I realize now, like reading a lot more about the birthing process and learning from my midwife, is that the more that you are A, in fear, and B, just that have those unknowns and those questions, everything's tense. Like
Yes.
you're like scrunching up your face when you're screaming instead of like releasing. And so
Mhm.
I just feel like I'm hopefully, I mean, it'll be fascinating. I can't wait to tell you if
I
it's different
know.
or if I'm like, nope, still.
Well, they say usually your second is a little faster, so,
Touch
we'll
wood. That's what
see.
they say. That's
Yeah,
what
that's
they
what they
say.
say, yeah.
Yeah.
Are you going to document this home birth?
So I want to more than I did my previous one.
Mhm.
I just, it's so hard to know. It's such an intimate thing.
Yeah,
And so it's
mhm.
like I want to cherish it and document it because
Yeah.
A, it's fascinating and it's literally a miracle. And this is probably gonna be the last time I do it. So it's like, I don't feel like I got, like, my mom took a couple pictures last time. That was it.
Mhm. Yeah.
And she was, yeah. And I'm glad. I love my parents. I'm glad they were there to help with the hot water, but I'm realizing that it's such an intimate moment. It wasn't great
Mhm.
having them there.
Mm.
It's not something I would want again. They're going to actually take my son and take him like away for like a mini vacation.
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
thinking like 3 to maybe even like 5 days to really
Yeah.
give us that time where I can just lay and sleep with baby girl and not be worried about him at all. No, he's having fun. And then he
Totally.
can come back and we can, get acclimatized being a family of 4. But
Yeah.
yeah, I did not love having my parents there. My mom, again, is a Virgo. She's super like type A Virgo.
Yeah.
She like grabbed my boob and put it in my son's mouth. Like she was so like I can't even explain. I was like,
Oh my
I have
god.
no autonomy of my body right now. And she was
Yeah.
just so like, do this, do that. Oh, da, da, da. And I was like, I don't have the energy to
Yeah.
argue with you. So I'm just going to let you grab my boob. I'm just going to let you,
Oh my
take
gosh.
over and just do what you need to do. It almost felt like I was like, she was having the birth that she wanted. You know what I mean? Like, and I think that's
Mm,
really hard. So I think for me, boundary would be like, yeah, no parents
for
involved this time.
sure. Yeah.
Um, and Philip was so capable. But I'm excited for the doula to give him more instruction as well, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
Because it
Because
is
they
hard for the guys to really know exactly what to do because they just
exactly.
see you there in so much pain and they're like, what can I do? And like no one was telling Philip how to help. He
Ugh.
was helping because he was just giving me eye contact and like affirmations and encouragement. But still,
Mhm.
it's like my doula is going to help him. Like, again, he's a strong guy. He can actually help massage and maybe even move me into positions or like
Totally.
do more this time, I think.
Yeah. Well, I send you all the positive vibes and everything. This is going to be a great,
Thank you.
beautiful moment for you.
Yes.
Now, do you mind talking about your fertility journey with your daughter and how, just how difficult it might have been to conceive your second?
Yeah, I don't want to say it was a complete shock because
Mhm.
I've heard actually of it from many friends. One of my closest girlfriends here in Austin, it took her 7 years between her first 2 to then
Mhm.
have her next child. So,
Really?
yeah, 7 years.
Wow.
So I was highly aware it was like, this might not happen immediately, but at the same
Mhm.
time, I was like, we're both healthy. I don't know. It's hard to know what it is that
Yeah.
makes it happen. It's and again, babies. Some people are very spiritual about it, and they're like, babies are going to come when they want to come. And then I've got other friends who that really hurts because it's like, well, why has my baby never happened? It's
Mm.
really tricky thing to A, talk about, and B, I felt like with secondary fertility, it's hard because you then feel guilty because you do have a child already. So
Yeah.
you don't want to seem like you're ungrateful or complaining about that because you already have, a perfectly healthy, wonderful human. So
Mhm.
I think I got to the point where I was like, we've been holding back because of finances. We've been holding back because we're worried about timing. But now I don't want them to be so far apart.
Right.
And even now, I guess it's going to be nearly 4.5 year age gap. So they're probably never going to be at the same school, I don't think, or like barely at the same school.
Yeah.
Like hopefully they'll want to do similar things, but potentially not. Like it's going to be interesting because there's definitely some pros. Like our son is so independent. Like every single morning he gets dressed himself. He's completely fully potty trained, completely wipes his own butt and flushes the toilet. And like he could like literally, he could move out and be fine. He went to a Montessori school, so he could cook for himself.
Oh, I love that.
He just is going around like he's a little old man. It's very sweet. But yeah, I guess started just wanted it to happen naturally, right? Like the first time it happened when I was on contraceptive. However, I was traveling a lot from London to LA, like a lot, and losing the time differences.
Yeah.
I was not taking the birth control at the same time every day, or if every day, it was maybe like I'd miss 3 days.
Yeah.
But anyway, so I was like, oh, it's probably going to happen easily, or whatever you might think in your head. And then just remember like a few months had passed and I was like, maybe I should like start tracking my cycles. So I had Natural Cycles, the app, and then I got the Aura ring. And then they combined. It was like perfect timing for me.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, that's great, because I love Natural Cycles, but I'm not going to lie, the thermometer was a bit of a pain. But then I bought the Aura ring and then it was tracking my temperature. So then I started tracking my cycles. And I found that to be so helpful because I realized I was away a lot, because it's only really 5 days a month where you can actually conceive, which is bonkers because you grow up your whole life living in this fear of like having a teen pregnancy and all of these things that people kind of like, I don't know, put on you.
Yeah.
And then when it's finally time, you're like, this is not that easy.
No, it's not.
There is a very small window.
Literally.
And you have to be together. You have to be, in that intimate moment and environment. And if you have a toddler roaming around or sleep in your bed, these things just aren't that easy. So it became like interesting just learning and tracking. I found it empowering. But I also remember being like, Philip, I really want this to happen. He was kind of like happy either way, but I was very much like, your whole family's Black, my whole family's white. Our child is the only mixed race child in both of our families. That's a unique experience that we can't even ever understand, right?
Yeah.
And I was like, I really feel like, I just feel it in my soul that he needs that sibling to have that shared experience with. And I also just was like, I feel like having a sibling is something I missed out on. And I think it's just something beautiful to have. Like, it feels like we've got this family unit where they have each other, we have each other. Anyway, so I very much said, I really want this to happen. And it's not really happening just naturally without me tracking it and without us putting a little bit more like planning or thought behind it. And he said, as long as you don't start going like this, like, touching your watch and saying it's go time, let's go. Like, and I said, okay. So in my mind, I was like, okay, I've got to be more like date night, more flirty, maybe buy some cute outfits. Like, so I think that was my route of like trying to make it less transactional and more like, let me just love on him more and make more intimate moments happen naturally, even though I know the time frame. I don't want him to be so aware of the time frame. So I think when we started to do that, and I also definitely paid more attention to my sleep and my diet, and just like I was working till 4 a.m. some nights and just burnt out. And I was like, my body is not gonna be fertile while it's just so exhausted and burnt out and stressed out. So I started kind of creating more boundaries for myself, and releasing just the expectations of work a little bit. And at one point, I remember kind of in December, beginning of December, I was 2 weeks late and my nipples and breasts started to hurt. And I was like, oh, it's happening. And it was the only other time I've ever felt that was with my first pregnancy. I don't get like nipple soreness or tenderness during periods. And because I've been tracking and was super aware, I was like, okay, I think it's happening. So I was like really excited. I was thinking about, oh, let me do the test when I get back and Philip will be there. And I went on this work trip to New York and I was shooting for a lingerie brand, Tabria.
Oh,
And we're like, it's, I don't know, 11 a.m. And then, you know, and you just like feel kind of like the wetness or whatever. And I was like, what
yeah.
is happening? And I ran to the toilet and I was bleeding. And there was so many emotions because I was like you're so disappointed. And
Yeah.
then you're like, and then I didn't know until after, but when I told like my symptoms to my midwife, she was like, you probably had a chemical pregnancy. So like a super short term, like 2, 3, 4 week pregnancy, but a chemical pregnancy. Because she said, was it a normal period? And I was like, well, no, it was like 2 days. And it was
Mm.
like heavy bleeding. And it was just not normal for me. I'm usually pretty regular. So you're kind of going through that. And then I literally almost, I won't say gave up, but I was just like, maybe this isn't for us, right? Maybe we'll just be a family of 3 and that's wonderful and it's going to be
Mhm.
perfect. And we'd already considered like adopting later on down the line anyway.
Mm.
And then I feel like when I just started to release all of that, literally the next month was when I actually got
Wow.
pregnant.
Yeah.
So, and it's so hard because you always want to share your story and you want to give people hope, but you also know that like, you know, I do have a best friend and she's been open online about her fertility journey as well. But it's, you know, she's in her 40s now and she spent 12 years trying. And it was
Mm.
12 like really tough years of multiple
Mhm.
pregnancy losses and miscarriage and, you know, and it's always hard to know how to share your story and then hope and not want other people to compare theirs to yours either.
Yeah. Ugh.
But regardless of how long it takes, it's still, I know that feeling of every single month feeling like another month lost, like, or another month where like you failed or your body failed, or you were just like having these questions and trying to balance that with like being productive at work, getting on with things. Or if you did have a miscarriage or a chemical pregnancy, it's like the blood was there. I was on set. I had to go straight back and put on that smile, like
Yeah.
literally, and take all those photos. And I was thinking, what has just happened or what's going on? I have to explain why I've ruined a pair of this underwear that I'm meant to be shooting. And it was just like, there's so much.
Yeah,
And
that's
so,
so much to
yeah,
deal with.
trying to conceive is, it's like feels like your whole life and it feels like
Totally.
everything is put on hold almost. And so trying to figure out how to keep yourself busy, to like let your friends know what you're going through, but also not let it consume you. So not everyone's asking you all the time. Because
Mhm.
people do start to ask,
Oh, yeah.
you know.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sure you're
De
getting it already as well.
definitely, and I was one of those people who would ask before, you
Mm.
know, like
Mm-hmm.
if somebody
Mm-hmm.
had their first and I'd be like, "Oh, are you gonna have a second? Are you interested in having a
Yeah.
second?" And now that I'm a mom, I stay out of people's business. I do not ask any
Yeah.
questions because you never
Yeah.
know what someone's going through, you know?
You really
And
don't.
yeah, and I don't want to be that person. And I mean, having people around you that are struggling, I'm in the same situation with an acquaintance who's becoming like a friend of mine and
Yeah.
I don't know how to navigate it sometimes. I
Yes.
let them lead always, but I am
Mm-hmm.
sensitive, very sensitive to that topic
Yeah.
as
I
well.
have another friend and she lost like a best friend from school for that same reason of just like somehow I guess her friend felt like she was insensitive to the fact that she wasn't able to, and
Mm,
I didn't include her and then asked too much from her. And it's a very hard thing to know how to navigate. And if you're the person going through it, I guess hopefully if you can be as open and honest with your friends about how they can support you or where your boundaries might lie, I think
mhm.
would be really helpful. Because it's very hard, because even if you have been through something similar, how you navigated versus them is different too,
Yeah,
you know.
totally. Yeah.
Some people might want you to like ask them questions and support them and like lean in, and others might want to just be like, don't even talk about it, don't bring it up, like I'm dealing with this on my own, it's a private matter.
Yeah. And I mean, there are other ways that people can become parents now. I know
Absolutely.
a lot of women really yearn to go through the natural process of being
Mm-hmm.
pregnant, but I mean, like you mentioned adoption earlier, it's something we're considering as well. I actually I'm some things I look back at what I did when I was younger, and I'm like, God, Tabria, you're so stupid. But I applied to adopt when I was like 27 or 28 because I knew
Did
it was
you?
something I
Yeah.
wanted to do. Girl, had no boyfriend, like nothing on the horizon whatsoever. And they denied me like immediately, like, be for real. Like,
Interesting.
but I knew it takes time. Like, as a single
Yeah.
person, you're automatically put at the bottom. And I knew like, oh, maybe in 5 years, that'll be a good time. And so that's why I went ahead and did it. But yeah, I don't know. And I don't want to suggest that to somebody because then I feel like they'll get offended. But, you know, it's definitely, you have to tiptoe around it.
So I think that's why this podcast is great. The more conversations we can have.
Yeah.
Hopefully people can, because I think if you don't hear anyone else talking about it, you don't even know how to bring it up or talk about it, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Something, this is random, but when you were talking about how your son will be 4.5 when your daughter's born, I saw this pediatrician who was talking about like having multiple kids and when to have them and how a lot of parents I want to usually do like 2 years apart. Like that's, you know, the golden
like
age gap or whatever. But he was saying that actually 4 years in between is best for child development and to build like parent-child connection. Like that's like those first 4 years are so crucial to a child's development, just emotionally and physically, every kind of way. That when you can really dedicate 4 years to being with a child, then you're really setting them up for success. And, you know, just putting that out there for you.
Okay, I'll take it. I'll take it.
Yeah. Thank you all for joining us this week. And be sure to stay tuned for part 2 because this conversation is not over.